countdown to the Summer Olympics and Paralympic Games in Paris is on, with just weeks to go before the opening ceremony. But there's much concern over the potential effects of extreme heat. It was a huge issue at the last Summer Olympics, seriously affecting competitors. And with high temperatures expected, organisers are having to think more than ever about how to mitigate the effects of climate change on athletes and how to ensure events take place safely. The BBC's Qasa Alom has more.
Got 20 seconds.
Phil Sesemann is one of the UK's fastest marathon runners. Just over a year ago, he was a junior doctor in the NHS. Then the 31-year-old beat Sir Mo Farah in the London Marathon. And now he's preparing for his first Olympics.
I can't wait, to be really honest. Really excited. I've worked really hard for a long time, and this is a lot further than I ever thought I'd get really in the sport. And to know that I'm kind of been here training for years and years and going to be kind of competing at kind of the pinnacle of the sport, it's really exciting.
Like every Olympian, Phil has his eye on the weather forecast. Paris has had 23 heat waves since 2010, according to Météo France. And climate change is making extreme temperatures more likely.
The race is in August in Paris, so it can be really warm. So the big thing's just kind of making sure that we're prepared for that. And there's always a chance that there's a heat wave as well, that we've seen in Europe over the last few years, through the summers. And if it was going to be like that, then we want to make sure that we're really, really well prepared.
One of the ways to do this is running in 40-degree heat in this specialist chamber at Leeds Beckett University. Phil's team are monitoring his blood plasma levels, perceived effort and heart rate, so they can see how his body and mind are handling the higher temperatures.
So promote a series of different physiological adaptations that'll mean that he can lose heat more effectively, and he perceptually feels more comfortable in the hot environment, so that'll be better for pacing, and also then reduce the risk of external heat stroke.
So how much of an impact is this going to have on his performance on race day?
It could only be 1 or 2%, but that's massive in elite sport. Big change it could have.
But it's not just about getting a competitive edge. The British Association for Sustainable Sport has just warned that intense heat at the Paris Games could pose a serious risk to athletes' health, or even, in extreme cases, lead to death, which is why heat training is becoming even more crucial.
Let's get you out.
Bill, how was that?
Yeah, it was really tough. It's not fun in the slightest, but just got to do it.
With training over for Phil, it's time to check out the results.
And heart rate kind of was lower. Good thing is it's perceptual scales, so your thermal sensation, thermal comfort was lower than last time.
Yeah.
So that's all good. The fact that sweat rate's elevated is really positive.
How do you feel about that? That's a huge positive, isn't it?
We've seen improvements, which is good. I definitely felt better than I did 3 weeks ago doing this test. We always want more as athletes.
As well as training in the lab, Phil's also been using less high-tech methods, like running in thermal layers.
And it's not just top athletes who can train for the heat. These techniques can help anyone. But experts say if you do exercise in hot conditions, it's important to pace yourself and not necessarily go for your personal best.
Qasa Alom, BBC News, Leeds.
Well, earlier I spoke to Pragya Mohan, an Indian national champion and South Asian champion triathlete, about the impact that heat can have on her training.
When I prepare or train in India or South Asia, the temperatures are very high. Even in the mornings when I go for my cycle ride or running, the temperatures are higher than 30 degrees. And that is one reason why I decided some years back that I wanted to relocate to a cooler temperature place where I could train more frequently outdoors. And yes, it does prepare us, but every competition is different. And most of the competitions, I belong to the sport of triathlon, so most of the competitions happen in European climate, which is generally cooler than the South Asian climate that I am used to. So the temperature that you're going to finally race at, if you prepare or train in such temperatures, then definitely the performance that you're going to have on the race day is much better.
And how much do you worry, and you know your friends and fellow athletes worry about your own physical safety as temperatures rise?
It is a big concern. So to just give you a perspective, like if we have to do races in 40 plus degrees with high humidity, it can be a killer. You can lead to a lot of fatigue. The recovery takes forever, and in extreme cases, it can be fatal. So it is an extreme condition that if we have to race in, it's very concerning for us athletes. It can be an existential crisis. This climate change can kill our sport. So that is definitely a concern for us. But as athletes, I think we have this killer instinct to do the best on the race day. So we'll give it all that we can. It is only so much that we can prepare for the heat. So on the race day, as an athlete, I don't think any athlete thinks that on the race day, especially that these are the conditions, how am I going to perform? So we give our best, and at extreme cases, it can be fatal.
And can you give us an instance where you were worried about conditions that you were training in or racing in, and what was going through your mind at the time?
So I have prepared, I've trained in India for a very long period of time. And to just give you a perspective, in India, I cannot train beyond 8 a.m. in the morning because the heat and the humidity just gets too much. And the city that I come from is based in the western part of India called Ahmedabad in a state called Gujarat. The temperatures are about 35 degrees for 8 months out of 12. After 8 a.m. So I'm not able to train in the afternoon outdoors, in the evening outdoors. It is only so much. I have to train indoors if I have to train beyond 8 a.m. And then racing, I have raced like in the last year. We did have some races in India, which were qualifiers for the international events. And the temperature, there was one race which was done in the middle of the afternoon, and the temperature was 44 degrees with a humidity of 75-80%. And that was a killer race. Like, I think most of the athletes who participated in that event, it took 2 to 3 weeks to recover from one event. And that was just a qualifier even for an international event. And so, if as athletes, we have to put that through our body for each event, it takes too much to recover and train back and to be prepared to compete for the next competitions. And going into that competition, because you know the conditions are going to be so extreme, you have to put 2 weeks, 3 weeks for that preparation. I was training in London and I traveled back to India 2 weeks prior to the event to prepare for such conditions. And even after that, my body was not ready because it took almost 2 weeks to recover post the competition. So it takes a lot out of the body to kind of compete in those conditions.